Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ekta Sehgal Malhotra, founder MQ, along with Ela Dwivedi, co-founder MQ. Extend a very warm welcome to the series on parenting. Restart, reprogram to yourself. Last week, we learned the rules of parenting. But before that, there were a lot of assumptions and presumptions that were challenged, questioned, and explained why that happens. Before that, we understood that do not generalize, do not distort, and do not delete. Because when you do that, the true essence of the situation gets generalized, gets distorted, and gets deleted in your mind. Rules of parenting, something which really resonated well with me. The way you look at something is the way a child looks at. So respect the opinion of the child as much as you respect your own opinion. And many more rules of parenting we understood. A lot of you must be thinking, why are we discussing about the rules of parenting? Because we do realize that the generation of today is very different. They are not like us. And as was explained by Resina, that they are different because of the environment, of the exposure that they get. We were very different. We were whacked, we were scolded, and we were brought online. But this generation needs to understand why they are being asked to not do something. And we very effectively learned from Resina that they don't understand that don't do this. The word no does not fall in their dictionary, especially the younger ones, because as she told us, imagine an image of the word no. Try doing that, and you will realize that there isn't an image to know. She also asked us to do an exercise, an activity, to sit with your child, to understand, to know what is it that they like about you, what is it that they don't like about you, and what do they think or what do they want you to improve on, and if there are any other comments that you have. So, Resina, over to you to take it on from there to make us understand a little more about that exercise. And if we have anyone who would like to share their experience, either on Facebook or here, we would be happy to discuss that. So over to you, Resina. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Ekta. It's a pleasure to be back again here. I am so thrilled and I'm so excited. The last week's session, we had so many parents, asking such wonderful questions and comments. And I'm looking forward, to the same participation today. So let's begin. And before we begin, yes, I will speak about the activity which we had asked and urged the parents to do. So basically, this activity was a love letter from your child, a love letter from a child to a parent, where I had requested all parents to speak to their children and ask them to write few lines about what is that they like about them as parents, what is that rather they dislike about them as parents, what is that we parents can improve upon, asking your child to mention it. I'm sure a lot of parents would have tried, and some parents who haven't tried yet, I would urge them to please try this. Some parents who have tried and not succeeded, please be at it, because yes, children are moody. They will take some time to understand why you're asking them to write this letter. Use all your tricks and techniques to lure them. You may have to cook some yummy food for them to make sure that they give 5 minutes to you and they write this letter. Do everything possible, okay, everything possible which is right, to pamper them a bit and request them to write this letter. And I'm sure your child will agree. Before we begin, I'm going to share the comments which I have for my letter, and I would request if parents who are watching us or right now with in this show, please also share your experience of this letter. So my experience with this letter was, I have been doing this activity several times. I just do it I try to do it at least once in a year, and I did this again. So first the letter had all positive comments. Mama, you're the best. I love you, etc., etc. And then when I saw the letter, I went back to my daughter and said, "There's nothing you want to write about. What should I improve on?" Then she gave it a thought and she was like, Mama, can I tell you, are you sure? You won't feel bad about it, right? So that's the first learning. See children, how caring they are about nothing they want to do to hurt you. So this is my daughter who told me this. Yeah, in spite of me being a parenting expert, I am with her all the time, taking care of everything possible. But sometimes children take a little time to open up. So don't feel bad about it if they're not writing something which you expect them to. Give them some more time. So I did this exercise once again with her. And the second time she came up and she gave me so many, important and good feedbacks, which helped me to, in fact, introspect and understand, okay, these are the little things which I as a parent need to focus on. One of the most important things was that she is a child who is growing up now and is looking for freedom. She is now 11-year-old, wanting to, looking for freedom, wants to explore the world. So the only thing she requested me was that, Mama, I want you to trust me. Now, when I heard this word, I was taken a little back. I was like, trust? Of course I trust you, my darling. She said, no, Mama, I want to go and play downstairs all alone by myself, but you don't let me go, which means you don't trust me. And that's when I realized that her understanding of trust is slightly different than my understanding of trust as a parent. It's a very simple example, but I'm sure all of you as parents are going to face this in your lifetime someday, some or the other. Then when I sat down with her and I explained her that what exactly trust means and why is that, it's unsafe to go and play at a certain age all alone. And we had a small discussion where we had a win-win between us that, okay, there are few days when you will go alone and there are few days that there will be a nanny along with you. And that's when we sorted it between us. And I've seen a change in her. She is much more open to me about discussing things which what her friends talk to her about. And there are so many good and positive changes have happened after that. So this is my experience of this letter. Every time I do this, every time I have different experience. And that's why precisely I had requested all parents to do this activity. Any comments, Ekta, Ila, from your side?
Ela, you want to go first?
Since I've got a 28-year-old girl at home and she won't write a letter to me any longer. But actually, I have done it quite a number of times with her. Like either I used to ask her to write a letter to me, or let's have a candid conversation, like a very honest conversation. So while, as you rightly said, Regina, that your child asked you to trust her more, same was the case. I was always under the belief that yes, I trust my child completely. And I have developed that trust, mutual trust over a period of time. But yes, एक दिन उसने मुझको यही बोला, ममा आप मेरे पे विश्वास नहीं करते हो. मैंने कहा, then she gave me a number of examples, like if somebody had played a prank somewhere and in that group of kids, Pupul's name cropped up. And I used to scold Pupul, even while she was saying, Mama, maine nahi kiya tha. I was not a part of them. I should have believed her. So kids open your eyes in so many ways and in not so many words. So one was this, and then one was like, Mama, you should remember, you have to stay calm. You should not react as soon as you hear something. So she has actually taught me to respond.
And that's what we're going to talk about today, Ela. You touched upon a very important point. Yes, so, that's wonderful, Ela.
That's wonderful, yeah. Mine is just 4 years and 3 months old. So I asked her the first time, and she gave me a look like, what are you asking me? Then I again asked. I said, okay, come, let's write it down. I'll tell you what I like about you, and you tell me what you like about me. So she started off that I like it when you play with me, when you do craft work with me, and when you feed me, and when you cook for me. All those basic needs were highlighted. So I said, okay. So I figured out that, okay, ye bhi choti hai, she may not know exactly what she wants to communicate. So then I asked her, what is it that you don't like? When you don't feed me, when you don't play with me, or when you scold me. And sometimes when you give me one pity also. So I said, okay. And then immediately she said that, wait, I want you to add this to your like list, that when you don't scold me and when you don't, whack me. So in a sense, what she was trying to say is that when you do those things that pleases me, I like it all. And when you don't do those things, then I don't like it. And
Yeah.
of course, I think the scope of improvement didn't really reach. But after this exercise was done and I was doing my work, and she was in her room and there was pin drop silence. So we were wondering, what is cooking? What is this girl up to? And my husband called me that, come and see what she has done. So I was like, kya kiya hai usne? So I said, okay, I'll come. So she said, no, you don't come, I'll come. So Vinny told her that, don't erase it, whatever you've done. You show it to mummy. So she said, no, I will show. I'm not erasing it. So I want to show what she, shared. Just a moment. Can you see?
Yay!
Yes.
Wow.
So this is what she wrote for me, that I
Hi.
love mummy, and she made like a circle over there. What it means, I don't know. And after this, so my husband told her that, I'm sad you didn't write this for me. So she went back to her room and then she wrote, I love mummy. She wrote my husband's name and she wrote her name. So she didn't write Papa. She wrote she just wrote his name, and then she went back again, and again she wrote, I love mom. So she did this for 2 consecutive days. And I think children, they sense it when the positive energy flows from the parent side to the child. And then what they don't like about you suddenly becomes a liking. And as I had said in the beginning of the session, that this generation is very different. I think when we reached maybe teens or the 70, when we were nearing 17, 18, I think that was a time when we started to either negotiate with our parents or started to reason out with them or started to counter question them. But here, a 4-year-old is counter questioning something which is probably not resonating with her. But why should I do this? And very smart in capturing the rules that you set for them, but implementation is on the side. And so just to share an example, she did something and I didn't scold her, but I was very assertive. So she comes back to me and says, why are you scolding me? You're breaking your rule. I said, no, I'm not scolding you. I'm being assertive. So she said, okay, I did something bad. Now at count of 3, both of us will say sorry to each other. So I told her, I said, why should I say sorry? I didn't break any rule. She said, no, you have to say sorry. So I said, okay, there is no harm in saying sorry. That's what we also need to teach them, that, by saying sorry, we don't become small.
Yeah.
So that is how a 4-year-old is thinking and responding to a situation that you put them in. But it was indeed a great experience. I really enjoyed. I've done it before also with her, but this time I was more, assertive with her that nahi, aapko mujhe ye answers dene hi dene hain, and not letting her. Otherwise, she's one person who will just kind of go,
Yeah.
I don't want to answer these questions because she knows exactly where I'm coming from. So that's
They
what
sense it. They sense
Yeah,
it.
they sense
Totally,
it.
they sense it. Yeah. So yes, you're right, Ekta. The moment you tell your children to do this activity, you're not going to get a yes. They're going to ask you 10 things. Why, what happened, etc., etc. Try and answer those questions in a nicer way, that, it's so important that I should know, I should get feedback from you, right? So mama wants feedback, dada wants feedback. So let us know, and we can work this out together. We can bring in changes. So this is how you talk to them, tell them, communicate, and see what kind of answers you will get. So do we have any comments, Ekta, before we move on?
Not as of now, but I think let's
Great.
proceed. We'll take them as
Great,
and when.
great. So I will quickly get on to starting the presentation. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Okay. So we begin. I think just a quick recap. I think Ekta has already done it, but just a quick one. What we've done so far is we've learned the most important principle of NLP is do not generalize, do not delete, do not distort. One of the most important tip, which is going to be mantra of parenting, which we have learned, is that see what they see, hear what they hear, and feel what they feel. This is going to help you really to understand your children well, not only at their mood levels, but even at their emotional levels. And then we reinvented some new parenting principles. And of course, we spoke about the love letter to my mom and dad from your child. So today, we're going to move on and we're going to talk more about, can I restart as a parent? Yeah. So the question is that, can I restart as a parent? So a lot of parents come and they ask me that, our relationship with our children is really sour. They don't listen to us at all, especially when they have older children. Because until the age of 10 or maybe 13, you can control a child. Beyond that, it gets little tough. And parents who have older children have this perpetual question that, isn't it too late for me to kind of restart my parenting? And trust me, my answer to all parents is yes. In fact, in life, can you restart? Of course, you can restart. When in life you can restart from, the worst of the worst things which happens to us, and why can't we restart as parents? So my first and the most important, point which I want to make to every parent is that, even though you don't have a great relationship with your child, if you think that your child is drifted away, if you have problems in disciplining your child, making them understand, removing stubborn issues, bad behaviors, is it possible for you to correct them? Yes, it is possible. It is not late. You can definitely bring in some changes with which you can, restart your parenting and also reprogram your children, get them away from bad behaviors, bad habits which you think are harming them, and create a nurturing relationship with them. There is this beautiful quote which I always, believe in, and I know that, and I want to read this out, that with conscious parenting, moms and dads see children as teachers. Now, what do I mean? What do I mean by here is, when you get into a mode of parenting consciously your children, you will constantly observe them. You will constantly look at them in terms of observing something and not reacting, as what Ila said. From reacting to respond is something which is very, very important, and which we're going to talk about in our next slide. So when you start conscious parenting as a parent, you will constantly look, observe, calm down, respond instead of reacting, and you will constantly keep learning from your children so many things that which you will start adopting as a parent. Like, I'll give you my example. My writing journey started because of my daughter. I would have never written. I have authored so many books today, and I give full credit of it to my daughter, because from her I got the inspiration. From her I got the habit of writing, and today I am an author. So I looked at her as my teacher. I whenever I have, I'll also give you another example. When I'm having some career issues, or I have clients who are slightly difficult to handle, sometimes I discuss my problems with her, and the kind of solutions you get from children, which are so unconditional, which are so beautiful, which are so at a great emotional level, that I end up solving my problems or my personal issues, listening to her solutions. Yes, Ekta.
Two things here, Regina. As you said that children are your teachers. I started off a small initiative called Vanya's Craft because I saw my daughter having that inclination towards art and craft at the age of 18 months, and who knew that that would become an endeavor which I would cherish a lot. It is only because of her that she brought out the creative skills that I always thought I didn't have. So that's one. And the way you said about a career decision or something, my brother's daughter, because she has been hearing about the financial markets, about company evaluation and everything from the very beginning. And she would see that the stock market is, whether it's in the green or in the red. So many a times, if my brother discusses with her that this is the company that I'm evaluating, and he'll tell her something about it, she would come up with a perspective which sometimes he feels that he never could have even thought of, because the child doesn't get colored or is not colored with those, the baggage or the overload of information. She's just understanding what you have told the person, and in her own innocence she's giving out a thought, and is either validating it or is questioning it, that why are you wanting to look at this, and she's just about 12. So yes, I completely agree with you that our children really teach us a lot, day in and day out. What my mother couldn't teach me in 40 years, my daughter taught me in 2 years.
Absolutely, Ekta. Great. I'm so glad that you resonated with this thought. And every parent who's consciously going to think about what I've just said will realize that every point of time our children can teach us such wonderful things, in our life.
In fact,
So
we have
the
Sadia and Reena also saying that Reena is saying that she's done the same, sharing some workplace challenges to seek some fresh ideas.
yes,
And Sadia is saying that the suggestions that these kids give is absolutely mind blowing. That
absolutely
freshness is there, and the way they think is very different. Sometimes they come with an absolute radical thinking, which
absolutely
probably becomes the need of the hour.
true. I totally agree. And, I think all parents will resonate to this, maybe not at this moment. Maybe when they go back after this show, they may look around, observe around, and they'll see how much there is, to learn from our children. So,
Absolutely.
on a positive note, let's begin. Can you restart parenting? Definitely yes. Whichever stage you are at, give yourself a bow up and smile a bit, and let's begin that because you can restart parenting. So, we are going to talk about some 7 steps, okay, which is going to help you to take this journey to restart your parenting journey. But before that, you need to remember these 3 things. We all parents need to remember these 3 things. One, and the most important, we have been speaking about this, so I'm going to repeat again. Change begins with you. I think this is something which we would have read this quote in many different forms, on in different what to say atmospheres, environment, especially at workplaces. Change begins with you. Be the change, right? This be the change begins with you is such an important element for us as humans. And you cannot believe that if you use this as a parent, you can transform your child's life, you can transform your child's behavior. You have a much better chance to succeed in your parenting journey if you bring in changes in you. One quick example we'll take here. If you are troubled with excessive gadget time of your child, the first and the most important step would be to reduce your own gadget time. And you will see slowly and gradually your child will start modeling that behavior which you exhibit. So, this is a very simple example. All of us are struggling with this problem, but no parents today, whomever I speak to, accept the fact that they are also on gadgets because of whatever reason, work, personal. I totally agree. We are all in the virtual world today. But parents, my request is whenever there is a scope, reduce it, keep that phone away, keep it away, and be with your children 100%. And you will see that they will also be encouraged to spend time with you without their phone in their hand. So that's the first most important element if you want to restart your parenting. The second element is one at a time. I know we all want best children's, best behaviors, everything really good about them. We want the greatest future for them. But can we do it all together? Don't even try to. Go one at a time. Understand what is the most crucial behavior which is impacting your child, something which is really critical, and one by one work on resolving it. If you try and experiment too many things at a time, the child will get confused. Because remember, we spoke about this, it's important to break the patterns, and you have to break patterns one at a time, one at a time, one at a time. If you're wanting your child to score good marks, if you're wanting your child to reduce gadget time, you want your child to eat healthy, you want your child to start reading, you want your child to be disciplined, come on time, go on time. I mean, there are 5 things which you're expecting from your child at one go. Slow down a bit. Pick up the most important one, which you think is impacting your child's behavior, and work on it one at a time. If you do this, you will see successful results. You will see that your child is open. Once he has adopted one good behavior, he or she will be much open to adopt the second good behavior, which you want to probably make your child adopt or change something which is negative about your child. So that's the second most important element. And the third and the most important, which Ela said, is that we have to change from reacting to responding. So, what's the difference between reacting and responding? It's very, very simple. When you react, there are emotions which are negative in form, which you exhibit out of your body towards your child. It reflects in your tone, it reflects in your behavior, it reflects in your body language. But however, when you respond, you exhibit positivity out of your body. We spoke about energy. There is energy all around. If you pass on negative energy, you will get negative energy back. I'm sure everyone believes in this. It's similar with children. When you react, it's a negative energy. When you respond, it's a positive energy. And when you respond positively, you will receive not not 100% that your child will respond positively back at you, but you will see that the response ratio of your child will be much better than the way the child would have responded if you would have reacted towards your child. So as a parent, learn to respond rather than react in every situation. Let's take a quick example. If you find your child, say, not adhering to the bath time, let's take a simple example. We all have little children, and it's sometimes difficult for them to, for us to make them understand and listen. You need to have a bath at a particular time, or you need to finish bath, in a particular time. The first problem is they don't want to have bath, and the second problem is once they are in the bathroom they don't want to come out. So there are two challenges which we parents always battle with. It's a simple example, but it's a daily routine. It's a daily struggle for parents. So in this situation, generally what we do is we pull our children, we push them in the bathroom, we just start the shower for them, we say just make sure you have your bath and you come out. That's one way. And if they're not coming out, then we sit outside, we constantly follow up with them. We ask them, are you going to come out? Are you going to come out? Are you going to come out? I have done as a parent, and I'm not going to feel shy in saying that. I have stopped doing it only when I realized, when I studied NLP, when I got my parenting, expert coaching involved. That's when I realized that what I did was wrong. So I'm not going to feel shy in saying this. Every parent faces this struggle, and I have faced it too. So the way to handle this is, rather than just reacting, chasing them, and screaming at them, you be assertive. As Ekta said, be assertive. For the first time, it may not work. Second, third, fourth, fifth time, it will definitely work. Assertiveness works better than reacting. Be assertive with them. Tell them that this is the time which you need to follow. If you do not follow, these are the things which can go wrong. Put certain very, very clear instruction to them that if you do not adhere to this rule, which is put for your own goodness, for your own hygiene, for your own grooming, if you don't do this, then your gadget time will be taken away, or your play time will be taken away. You need to quantify it with something which is probably going to impact the child's fun area, the fun part, etc., rather than then screaming at them, shouting at them, scolding them, threatening them that if your father comes back, I'm going to tell your father, this is how you're troubling me, this is how you're frustrating me. These words are, your children may not tell you, but somewhere these words pierce them through. And I'm going to talk about a very sensitive case here. This is not something which I handled directly, but this was something which was around the news. There was this little 10-year-old boy who was very mischievous, and his mother would always scare him with his father. And whenever his father came back, his mother would create a list of complaints in front of him, and then his father would really, really, whack him with a stick, and that had built in a lot of fear in the child. However, one fine day, the child was obviously, he was mischievous child. It was difficult to manage. But one fine day, the child came back home with a negative mark in his maths test. And the parent told the mother told the child that let your father come, and today we are going to make sure that we do something so that you never get negative marks in your maths. And the child collapsed immediately once the mother said this. And the child was rushed to the hospital, and when the doctors checked on him, he had suffered a cardiac arrest. This is a story which was doing rounds many, many years back. And this gave me a very important lesson as a parent, that never scare your child, so badly that it really impacts them emotionally, mentally as well, and then physically. So please be careful about how you are reacting today and change that reaction to respond situation. So we're going to move ahead with understanding the 7 steps. Before that, if we have any questions, any comments, Ekta, Ila, I would love to hear them.
We have Monica saying that the information that you're sharing is very good. And we had Shiny Jyoti Sharma saying that, as parents, we should not just be teachers to them, but we should be like friends, because then it is easy for them to comprehend what we are trying to tell them, and probably they will respond better to us. Manju, would you like to say something? You're raising your hand. Please.
Yeah. I just want to agree totally with what she said in the last, that we should not kind of, I call it parental bullying. Being a doctor, I'll put it a more specific name to the thing. But unfortunately, in my case, I think because of my work pressure and some social pressures, what I'm trying to tell you is that it is very difficult to undo the kind of, damage which we as parents do unknowingly to our kids. Yeah, because I have been actually, when I realized it, my child was already 10-year-old. And then I don't know where he got this idea that he can be bullied by everyone. And it took me a good 10 years of, positive parenting to bring him out of his, negative behavior. And even till now, he's 21 at this moment. But I would like to add, so that it helps future parents or parents with young kids, that they should never ever bully their kids. There's always a positive way, which Razina is telling very beautifully. But this is just an experience I want to share, because he's 21 and still, he suffers from self doubt at times, so that damage goes very, 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 very deep. So, and especially coming from a parent's mouth. That's all.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing this. I'm sure a lot of us would benefit to hear that. Sometimes very casually we say a lot of things. Because we just say it, we don't really mean it, but what the impact would be on the child is something that we need to be conscious about, and I think that's what is being a conscious parent. Okay, back to you, Reza.
Wonderful share, wonderful share. Thank you so much. All right, so let's move on. The first step. Remember, we spoke about parents also carry a baggage. So the first step, if you want to restart your parenting, is first love yourself. Love yourself as a parent. Love yourself as an individual. There are many ways to love yourself. I think that's a different session which we can get into whenever we do another session. But basically, what love yourself means is that take good care of yourself as a parent, emotionally, physically, and mentally. Accept the fact that you are a parent. Accept the fact that you have a child who is going to be mischievous. Accept the fact that you might have a child who is not great at academics but is good at creativity. Accept these facts. Accept, embrace it. Yeah. Do not try to prove yourself as a parent in front of the community by putting pressure on your children. So first step to love yourself is to accept the way your child is and accept the way you are as a parent. Every parent has a positive intention. I always believe in this. Our methods may not be obviously always positive. There can be negative methods as well, but our intentions are positive towards our children. So that's very important. So the first step is love yourself. Now, how do you love yourself? Of course, we learned about following certain parenting rules. Trust me, these parenting rules, which we understood last session, if you try and follow, if not all 5 of them, even if you try following these 3 rules out of those 5, one at a time, you will see that as a person, as an individual, you'll first start seeing changes in yourself. So let's take first example. See what they see, hear what they hear, feel what they feel. Do you know what is required to follow the first rule? Anybody want to put an answer in a comment? I would really love to know. What is it, that one thing which you require to follow this first rule?
Empathy.
I'll wait for 30 seconds. Sorry?
Empathy.
Empathy. Yes, absolutely, Ekta. Now just imagine that if you are empathetic, yeah, as a person, won't it benefit you? It will. It will first benefit you. You will start falling in love with yourself. You will be empathetic towards your own self before being empathetic to your children. So these rules which we have learned, these rules are scientific research-based rules. It first creates changes in your mind, in your physical and mental health, and then it transforms to children. So parents, these are the rules to follow if you want to start loving yourself. Please try this and share your experience with me. I would love to hear each one of them. And again, I'm going to share a beautiful quote here. For a child to grow up feeling loved, firstly, the parents must love and approve of themselves. It's a very simple but a very beautiful quote. And this is your first step to restart your parenting. If you cannot do this, you are going to struggle. You're not going to get onto the journey of restarting your parenting. So before you move on to the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh step, practice this and then move on to the second, third, fourth step whenever you are ready. There is no hurry, parents, whenever you're ready. But first, this is so important. This is a foundation for you. So work on this for a longer time if required so that you can see success and you can generate results by following the future steps. Shall we go ahead, Ekta? Great. Okay, the second one. The second one is, of course, when you want to restart, you have to make a fresh start. And that's the reason why we had discussed this activity, which I'd urged everyone to do, where you would ask your child to write about you, what they like about you, what they don't like about you, what they want you to improve on, or anything else, what they want to communicate. This letter is going to be a great, great fresh start for every parent. So if you have not done this, please do this because it will give you an insight about how your child feels about you, how your child thinks about you, and you will exactly know which are the areas you want to work on. You as a parent might think, as we were talking about trust, I think I trust my child, but my child doesn't think that I trust them. There's such a big difference. Can you imagine? So, of course, when you're parenting with your view and your child has another view, then your parenting will never match with your child's expectation and things will keep falling out of place. So, understand your child more before you begin this journey. Make an attempt, do whatever is required. As I told you, cook some yummy food for them, throw a little treat for them, but make sure they write something and give to you so that you know where you stand today as a parent. Once you've done this, once you've identified this, the next step is to be the parent your child needs and not the parent you wish to be. I'm going to read this again. Be the parent your child needs and not the parent you wish to be. I'm sure we all can understand what I'm saying here. We just discussed an example before that as parents, I have seen a lot of parents competing against other parents, competing against society, against social pressures. They are creating children, to follow certain paths which probably their neighbors are following or other parent is following. Parents are constantly putting some or the other pressure on children just to make sure that their community presence is doing good or their social status is really wonderful. I would request parents that don't do that. Let your child be. You can always give them a platform. I've always been saying, always give your child an opportunity to explore what creativity is, what dancing is, what maths is, everything else. Give them a platform, but understand what they exactly want to do and do not put social pressures on them. So be the parent your child needs and not the parent you wish to be. How can you do that? These are 5 simple steps. Participate. What I mean by participate is hear what they hear, feel what they feel, see what they see. What I mean by here is that whatever they do, participate, enter their world. We spoke about entering their world and seeing the world from their eyes. So enter their world, participate in whatever they do, and understand them more. And once you do that, you will know exactly what your child likes, doesn't like. You will get to know your child better. The second one is model the behaviors. So if you want your child to reduce gadget time, reduce your gadget time. If you want your child to eat healthy, cook healthy, eat healthy yourself, and you will have your child eating healthy. If you want your child to exercise every day, you exercise every day, and you will see your child will slowly start adopting those methods. Yeah, these are some simple examples. Yes, Ekta.
Okay, this is a very sweet comment. I thought I must read before you go any further. So Sadia did that exercise of the love letter with her daughter. She has 2 kids. One is 4 years and a few months, and the younger one is about a year and a half. So so the what the child is saying that I like everything about you. There is nothing I don't like. So she said, still, please tell me, you know, when you go somewhere without me, I don't like. So the child doesn't like to be left alone. And I said, any comment which I can, anything I can improve. So she said, no, Mama, you are amazing. And I like each and everything about you. And of course, after listening to all this, the mother is on cloud nine. So, Sadia has had a great experience in feeling good about herself, where the child, I think, these 4 years old, they still don't know what
Yes.
is what are those things that they don't like about the mother or the father. They
True.
are too much in awe of them. I think once they grow, because then I think they also start to generalize, distort, and delete.
True.
That's when they get they start thinking, differently कि हमारे parent में कुछ तो गड़बड़ है. I don't know, does it happen like that?
Yeah. So, Ekta, children at this age generally do not generalize, lead, and distort. Okay. I think this age is a little tender in terms of understanding and expressing something out. So it's very important to probe, the child at this tender age. Now, what the parents could do is maybe, sit down with the child and tell the child, okay, listen, I want to tell you something. These are the 5 things I like about you. These are the 2 things I don't like about you. Can you tell me similarly? Like play like a game, where you pass on chits to each other, write down what you feel like, ask your child to write down back. If they cannot write, then tell them to say that to you in your ears. It really helps. Asking them to say something in your ears can help you to make your little child express you more. But it's going to be an effort, Ekta, on a regular basis, which you'll have to put in. And ultimately, your child will understand what exactly you want them to talk about, and they will start expressing. But
But
there
Sadia
are
is saying thank you to you that, it's because of you that she's got to know that her daughter loves her so much. And she did prompt her where she said that I don't like it, when you leave me alone and go somewhere.
yes.
So, so that feeling she did after prompting her, she did acknowledge that.
Correct.
But Sadia is feeling very nice. So she's thanking you.
Super, Sadia. I'm so happy. I'm so happy for you. Great. So we were on modeling behaviors. We just spoke about that. Whatever behavior you want your children to model, you have to first, exhibit that, and they will follow you. Again, I'm repeating: children under 10 to 30, at least under the age of 13. For them, only you are their heroes. You are their superwomen of their life. They have seen you and only you when they were born, so they always want to be like you. Like if anybody would ask me even today, what do you want to be like? And I would say I want to be like my mother. And I'm sure a lot of people, listening to us would have that answer. We always want to model somebody or the other whom we like. So it's so important that you become that model for your children, and you will see positivity and behavior changes in your children. We already spoke about see, hear, feel. The next is be real. Now, some parents might go a little over the top where they will probably model behaviors, okay, in front of their children, but they may not model the behaviors when their children are not around. Now, children are super intelligent. They are really very smart. They can catch us they can read us. They can read our emotions. So when you want to be a great parent, you want to be a genuine parent, you have to be genuine. Otherwise, your children will sense it. I'm not going to emphasize too much on this. Everybody understands the word of being a genuine parent, and I'm sure we all want to be that. But please remember this, that if you are asking your children to model certain behaviors, do not keep two faces. If you're following it in front of your children, also follow it behind your children, because some or the other, if they get to know, they will feel that they have been cheated on. And when they get this feeling about a parent, it's very, very bad for a child to ever trust the parent back again. So please be real, please be genuine. And lastly, treat them like little humans. Children like to be treated like adults. They like to be, given importance. They like to feel empowered. So do that often. Do that often. Give them some responsibilities. Give them responsibilities and completely trust them of doing it. Don't interfere in between, because moment you do that, then they feel that, okay, my parents don't trust me. My parents don't want to give responsibility to me. Give them little tasks which is going to make them understand things like ownership, responsibility, trust, and treat them Treat them like adults. Talk to them like adults. Communicate with them your feelings, your thoughts. Let them communicate their feelings and thoughts to you like the way two mature people talk about. And trust me, children love mature conversations. Yeah. If you beat around the bush, they might just look at you in a very fumbled way, and they understand that my parents are just beating around the bush. They don't want to talk to me about this. They want to talk to me about something else. You better talk about that something else. What do you want to talk about in a very mature way with your children? And you will see that they will respond positively to it. Yes, so this is step 3. We move on to the next step. Oh, this is the most important step, and we're going to spend a lot of time on this. The most important step in any relationship, forget parenting, is about rapport. Let's quickly just talk about this. I'm sure a lot of us, we want to always build relationship with people who are somehow like us, isn't it? Yeah, it's always said opposites attract, but I think keeping that thing aside, I would uh, connect with somebody who is a coach because I am a coach. Ekta may connect with somebody who is into finance because she is into finance and various other stuff. Ela will connect with somebody who is into greens because she is into greens. So it's human nature that we connect with people who are same like us. With children, this is a very, very important step. You have to build rapport with your children. What is building rapport? Building rapport has many, many things. I have put up the definition here, but in simple terms, it's just building relationship, which is built with trust, which is built with understanding. Your child should feel that you are understanding their ideas, you're communicating with them, they are able to communicate with you. Rapport, when do you know that you have a rapport with your child? When your child is close to you, when your child shares without even asking, when your child waits that whenever mom is free, dad is free, I'm going to tell them everything what's happened in the day without even you asking them. These are the signs which will tell you that you are in rapport with your child. In the next session, I'm going to teach you a technique on how to build a rapport, which we're going to talk about, and that will ease the process of building a rapport with your child. So we're going to touch upon that as well. The parent child relationship is something which nurtures the child at a physical, emotional, social, and mental level as well. So it's not just about the health aspect of your child. As a parent and a child relationship, we have to nurture every element of a child. It's the bond, it's a unique bond. And to build this unique bond, you need to build rapport with your children. And once you build a rapport, once you have a rapport with your child, and what you will see is that you will see that your child's behaviors, your child's acceptability towards you as a parent will be at a very, very high level. Let's take an example. If I am a coach and I'm trying to engage with another coach and I look up to that coach, because why? Because my thoughts match with that person, and I'll be more acceptable to listening to a coach because even I am a coach. So here, my rapport is built on a condition that a coach is interacting with a coach. Yeah. So whenever there is a finance topic, Ekta would be more keen on listening to those conversations, or understanding what's going on because she connects with the word finance. For her, finance is the rapport. Similarly, we spoke about Ela. Ela does multiple things, but greens is something which she's passionate about. And I'm sure if she comes across somebody else who is, has the same passion, she would want to interact with that person more. Isn't that, Ela? Would you agree to that? So similarly with children, when they find that their parents are in sync with them, when they find that their parents are talking the same language as they speak, when they find that their parents have same interest as what they have, they will be more open to you. I'm going to move to the next slide. You will understand more in detail why I'm saying this. These are some statistics. According to a research, okay, human beings communicate. We communicate 55% through our body language, 38% through our voice, our tone, and only 7% through our words. Only 7% through our words. But what do we do with children or with anybody around? We always do the reverse, isn't it? We always converse more with words, less with body language, less with tone of voice, and we expect 100% result. This is the core problem why our children don't listen to us. Because as parents, we use only words, which has only 7% impact on the brain. The real impact is through body language and through the tone of your voice. It is not through the words. So no matter how much you scream at them and tell them, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, they are not going to listen to you. Because A, children can't form the word imagery of the word no. And second, these are only words. Children will listen to you more when you communicate through the right body language and through the right tone of voice. Try this when next time when you are angry on your child about something, instead of screaming through words, try and use your body language. Go towards them, hold them, touch their cheeks, touch them on their shoulder or hold their hand, and then talk to them in a very pleasant voice that, listen, why did you do this? And you will see immediately if your child is hyper and crying and acting crazy, you will see immediately your child will calm down. This is a scientific research and it works 100% of the times. You will see your child will calm down and will start communicating with you. In fact, your child will even accept their mistake and say, okay, I'm sorry, I was not supposed to do it. So I would urge every parent, next time you have a situation, don't choose words. You choose your body language, choose the tone of voice. Now, what you must do, there's one trick I'm going to leave you all before we get into what should you do to build rapport in a detailed way. There's one trick I'm going to leave you all with is whenever you want to build rapport with your child, adopt the same body language which they are, using or acting in, obviously not the aggressive one, and adopt the same tone of voice which they are speaking to you on. So for example, if your child is sitting and screaming for junk food, so there will be a way they will be talking to you. Try and make them sit down and copy their body language. So if they're screaming and saying, I want junk food, I want junk food, reply to them that, hey, we cannot have junk food, we cannot have junk food. Look at how they are moving their hands, look at how they are moving their eyes. If they are touching their hand, you touch your hand. If they have a specific tone of voice, try and match that tone of your voice, and you will see slowly and steadily your child will start matching your body language and your tone of voice. So in this situation, instead of screaming, shouting, sit down, use body language, use your tone of voice. First, copy them, and you will see magically they will start copying you. So, copy them and then calm down and then use your body language, and they will start copying you. And you will see that ultimately their, that stubbornness for having junk food will go down slowly. It works, maybe not the first time, but always we can try the second and the third, and it definitely works. Building rapport exercise works most of the times with children, and as adults also you will experience it. When we are working, or for example, we relate to certain actresses or actors in our life, right? If you ask yourself why do you like a particular actor or actress, is because either you want to be like them, or there is something about them which is matching with your personality. Yeah. So for example, if I have everybody compliments me saying that you have a good smile, so I associate with an actress which has a really beautiful smile because I see that same quality or same personality in that other actress. This is absolutely scientific. You may be wondering what is this, but just go back and think, who is your favorite actor, who is your favorite actress, or who was your favorite boss when you were working or while you were working, and why do you like that particular person? Any personality whom you like, you will see there is some resemblance which you see in them which is also in you, and that's why you get attracted towards that person. So similarly, when you start building rapport with your children, copying them and then letting them copy you, you will see that your communication with them will improve, and they will start listening to you in a better form. So start practicing communicating with your children to increase usage of body and tone. That's most important. And this is the first step or first change, which very important change, which you'll have to bring in as a parents. Words down, body language and tone of voice increase. Try this out, and I'm sure you'll come back to me with positive results. Ekta, any questions, or shall we go ahead?
So Prachi is saying that nice input given by you, and Sadhya is also saying that most of the time when she cries and immediately she starts laughing. So I guess what you're saying is very right. I agree that the moment you kind of copy the way they do, they the aggression tones down,
Calms down.
because then they see, okay, okay, oh, this is how I am behaving, and that happens. But I have a question to ask, and it's a real situation. If a child behaves in a certain manner repeatedly for the same things, how do you deal with that child?
So doing a rapport exercise with the child will definitely work in this case. So whatever that behavior is, understand how the child functions during that behavior, which means what is the tone of the voice of the child, what is the body movements the child is using. Copy that same body movement, copy that same tone of voice, and you will see that your child will be all confused and surprised as to what's happening. Yeah. Once you do that, try, then you move on to the next step where you start, exhibiting a particular behavior, which will be calm, composed, using right body language, using right tone of voice, and you will see slowly and steadily your child will start copying it, and the child will give into this repeated behavior. But however, the first step where you have to copy your child has to be repeated multiple times for you to see the child responding to it in a different way.
Okay, super.
Great. All right. So we learned, so far we've seen 4 steps. I'm just quickly, we are going to repeat this. So we will go to the next step and then we'll do a summary at the end. Next step is, as a parent, if you want to be successful in whatever you do for your child, okay, whatever you do for your child, if your child is not in a positive state, it will never, never, never work. Yeah. Children do a lot of self-talk now, and mostly their self-talk. Today's children, we as children probably did a lot of positive self-talk because we didn't have so much of exposure. And we didn't know that there is so much happening around the world. We had only one news TV channel, which gave us a half an hour news. So we just had limited information. We were not exposed to social media. We were not exposed to this YouTube community, this YouTube bloggers. Today, children want to be YouTube bloggers. They want to have millions of followers. These are the words which I hear from 10-year-olds, 11-year-old. I'm creating my YouTube channel. I want 1 million followers, etc., etc. Now, just imagine if somebody who has this aspiration and is not able to reach this aspiration, there's going to be a continuous negative talk inside the child, a continuous negative self-talk. And today's children do a lot of negative self-talk than positive self-talk because only of the environment, the atmosphere, and especially that all of us are working parents and we are not able to give complete time to them. So they get exposure to a lot of other things, which we may even try to restrict, but it may not be in our control. So it's so important to first identify your child's state. If your child is not in a positive state, now, how will you know that your child is not in a positive state? You will get to know from your child's behavior, and it will not be detected in their words. It will be only detected in their body language and in their tone of voice. So whenever you want to identify whether your child is in a positive state or a negative state, sit down, talk to them, especially hold their hand and talk to them. When you hold their hands, it's magical. The warmth which you emit as a parent actually has a lot of energy. Everybody may not believe this, but this is true. You can try this as we are. If your children are around, just hold their hand and see the kind of energy you receive and the kind of energy your children receive. So hold their hand and understand what is their body language like. Are they looking sad? Are their eyes drop? Are their shoulders drop? How is their tone of voice? Are they sounding sad? Are they not happy? You will get all the signs and signals in their body language and in their tone of voice. Yeah, but not in what they say. They may say, no, I'm fine, mommy, papa. Absolutely, please go to work. I'm cool, I'm good. This cool word is becoming a word which children are latching on to just as an anchor to feel good, but they're actually not very cool about it. So understand what they are trying to say through their body language and tone of voice. And as a parent, every parent knows their child. In a blink of an eye, you can say whether your child is happy or whether your child is sad. So I don't have to explain this to any of the parents out there. You guys already doing it and you're doing it well, but be more conscious about it so that you can understand their state. Because state is nothing but how internally they are feeling. Yeah. how internally they are feeling is what their state is. So you need to catch their internal emotions, because a happy state leads to a happy mind leads to a happy child, and a happy child leads to a happy parent. So see the connection. One change, and you can see so many positive benefits or effects of it. Once you identify that your child is in a negative state, as a parent, you need to first give them confidence that this can be dealt with. I know children who are today wanting to become YouTube bloggers and have 1 million followers. It's a real case which I'm talking about. And the children are making various kind of videos and to get popular, and they are dealing with so much of pressure where they're talking to their friends to please like my video, tell your parents to like my video, tell your friends to like my video. At this tender age, they are doing marketing for themselves. And I'm sure you all will agree that it's very, very stressful as grown-ups, or as a coach, when I have to do marketing for myself, and all of us will agree, and even at our workplaces, it's tough to market yourself, it's tough to get those results. And we as grown-ups can sometimes break down because of this. And you can imagine what your child must be going through at this tender age. So give them confidence that whatever is going on right now, understand from them what is that is bringing them down. Give them confidence. As a parent, you're there for them and you're going to support them. And if it is your child's dream to become a YouTube blogger, of course, let the child explore, but be with your child in this journey. Okay, be with your child, give them your tips, tell them I will help you. Step into your child's world, tell them I will help you to see how we can get you to 1 million followers. When you are with your child, two things will happen. Of course, the child will reach 1 million followers at the right time, because as a parent you will create a milestone for your child. Children don't know how to create milestone. They don't know how to set goals. As a parent, we need to help them to set realistic goals. When you do that, they will have a realistic goal in front of them, and they will ease the journey to reach there. Second is they might just give up the idea because they will realize that, oh, this is not meant for me. Because today a lot of people are influenced with social media. They just know that getting 1 million followers is the best way to become popular. As a parent, you can probably break that thought of theirs by being with them in this journey. Don't leave your children alone in any of their difficult journeys. They might tell you that I can handle this, I can handle this, but understand their physiology, understand their tonality, sit down with them, talk to them. There will be certain children who will be rebellious, especially teenagers who may not listen to you. So the first step will be the first 4 steps which we spoke about. Yeah. Restarting, loving yourself, building rapport. These are the gradual steps which I'm talking about, which you should start first and then lead to the step number 5. And then, of course, once you are in rapport with them, once they start discussing with you, you will teach them all the methods and tricks to beat these negative states and be in positive state. What can else you do to, build in the positive state in your child or keep your child in the positive state is this exercise. You have to constantly build in a lot of powerful positive beliefs in your child. As a parent, keep on talking to them in a positive way, keep on complimenting them on their you know uh, good habits, their personalities. Never always compliment them about how beautiful they look or how good looking they are. Of course, if they look good, compliment them on that, but never ever make it a habit that you every day compliment them only on their looks and beauty. Compliment them about how unique they are. Compliment them about how humble they are. Compliment them about how helpful they are. These are qualities and traits which you can talk about constantly to them. Constantly keep observing and telling them about them, and you will see that your child will start loving themselves and be in the positive state which they need to be. This really, really works. I'm going to show you something which I will show you in the next slide, which I have with me, which I do as a daily practice with my child, which we're going to come to. But keeping a child in positive state is going to be very important. This takes a lot of work. So parents, don't give up just by trying once. Your child may just wonder what's wrong with my mom and dad, why they are so overly concerned suddenly, etc., etc. It's okay. Give your child some time. Make a first step. If your child doesn't respond, leave them alone. Try again, try again, try again. But building rapport is very essential before you get into clearing their states. So shall we move on, Ekta? Or any
There is
question?
a question, Regina, from
Yes,
Prachi.
yes.
Is self-talk okay by the child? Because her daughter does a couple of times and she gets boggled and she tries to discourage her.
So it depends whether the parent is able to identify the self-talk is positive or negative. Yeah. Now, some children may not tell you about their negative self-talks. Yeah. And that's where we discussed that you need to start building rapport with your child so that your child gets comfortable, and whatever self-talk the child is doing within himself or herself, that comes out to you as a parent. So when you practice building rapport, you will see that your child will start opening up with you and start discussing the negative and the positive self-talks with you. Yeah. So self-talk is not bad until unless it's negative. And if it is, if you as a parent, you're worried that you don't know what your child is talking about to themselves, then first try the rapport building exercise and then move on to keeping your child in the positive state by complimenting them on their qualities, their great habits, their behaviors, rather than just their looks. Yeah.
True. And when you spoke about the that the example that you shared about so many followers, I had hosted a mother on one of my talk shows where she actually spoke about this, the professional hazards that impact our children, because she is someone who has a reasonable follower, and probably the child heard her say that, whatever, or would have seen that there are so many followers. So it kind of stayed in his mind that his YouTube channel should also have so many, and so on and so forth. So she actually sat down with him to make him understand that, I'm not bragging about it. They are there, and that is the result of the profession that I am in, right? And you don't have to get so bogged down with it. You are still building up. So yes, I think that is another aspect. I think when it comes to rapport building, I don't know whether you would cover that or not, but the impact of our work on a child and the mindset of a child, it could be positive as well as negative.
True.
But many of us forget to understand that how our work impacts them and how we can disengage the two. Like for example, the usage of the mobile.
Yes.
We are using it for work, or fine, we might use it for other things also, but the child doesn't understand that and then
Right.
starts copying you and imitating you. Similarly, I'm sure there would be many other professional hazards that could impact a child's well-being. So
True.
how does one deal with that?
Sure. Sure. So, a very this method works very well, where these are very little things, but they actually make a lot of difference to your child's understanding of what you do as a parent. It's a great idea to create a timetable of a parent and a child. You know, one day my daughter just walks up to me saying that, okay, I have a timetable, you don't have a timetable, and that gave me a thought that, oh yeah, this is so right. So then we sat down together and we created a timetable for ourselves. So she had her school timetable, a music class, and a lot of other things. And then I created my timetable. And then we realized that there was a lot of time which we could probably, spend together and then get back to our respective works. Yeah. And that gave her a lot of confidence, which made her understand what my mama does. And also, I gave her a confidence that oh my, we realized when we made the timetable, I said, My dear, you are more busy than me. I gave her so much of importance that she realized that, yes, even I am busier like mama. Yes, I think we should both complement each other, help each other during our times. So, for example, she knows that I have a call today at XYZ time. And if she's free, she helps me set up that call. And we, spend time together, plus my call is getting setting up. So when we created this timetable and we matched it with each other, it worked for me as a parent. And I have been guiding a lot of parents to do it, because when you do it and you put it in a display, your child continuously knows that what time my parents have a meeting, what time they don't have a meeting, and they try and follow and they respect your timelines as well. Only by telling them I have a lot of work, I have a lot of work, they don't understand. You tell them what kind of work you have. I'm telling you, they will understand. They'll start respecting you more as a working parent. They start looking up to your profession as well. Yeah. I've experienced this myself, and that's how I'm saying this with full confidence, that when I started, when I was working for 20 years, I would go to office, come back, take care of my child, spend as much as time as I could. And after that, I took a break. I thought as a parent that, oh, I have taken a break, my child will be very, very happy. She will never complain. But honestly, it was absolutely opposite. When I was going to work, she never complained because she knew Mama would be back at the X time, and after that, she is mine. But when I was at home, her expectation was that my mother is going to be all around with me all the time. What is happening? Yeah. And that's when we sat down, we created a timetable for each other where she knew what I was doing. I knew what she was doing. We both knew when we were free, but we made sure that those commitment of spending time, which was there, was kept most of the time. Sometimes there were urgencies which I couldn't meet up with, and I explained it to her, and then she understood. So as a parent, you can try and do this and see how your child will start responding to your work, respecting your timelines as well. But make sure you remove some dedicated time for your child in your schedule, in your routine, because that is what your child wants. And be committed to that routine as much as you can. If you keep breaking those routines, then your child will tear that timetable and throw it somewhere, and you will not even know about it. So try and do this and see if it works for everyone. Great. So we move. Yes, Ekta.
Yes, please.
Shall I continue?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yes. Now this is the next step. We want our children to study well. They should understand things. They should get good grades. I'm sure all of us want that. Not going to repeat again, but just reiterating that academics is not your child. Okay. Academics is just your academics don't define your children. So don't put undue, unnecessary pressure on your children. So having said that, it's so important to, as a parent, to first identify the learning mode of your child. Even teachers fail at this. A lot of teachers, sometimes you would have observed that they can't control a batch of children, or there are some children who hate particular teachers. It's because teachers also today do not understand the mode of the child, the learning mode of the child. Now, what's a learning mode? All of us understand things through three senses. Remember, we spoke about this also. We see, we hear, we feel. Yeah. Even academics, even studying is just not about hearing or maybe seeing. It's also about feeling. Children involve feelings while they study, and when their feelings are disturbed, that's when they are not able to cope up with academics. This is so very important, and this needs to be looked at. If at all you have children who are not able to cope up with studies, who are not able to concentrate on studies, or probably they're not liking studies. Yeah, there are some children who are super intelligent, but moment you ask them to study, they would be like, no, I've already heard what my teacher said, and I'm going to just give my exam just like that. They hate sitting doing their homework. They hate sitting doing their revisions, but they score well. Yeah. So there are different kind of children who fall, the different categories of children which face various challenges during their studies. Now these are the three senses. Now what happens is that children, however, don't use all the senses equally. Yeah. When you want to really absorb something really very well, you have to put in all your three senses in it so that you can get the best learning out of it. Now, the most important thing to do is to teach your children to use all the three methods and all the three senses. How do you do that? We are going to cover that later. How to build the sense of your child, the visual sense, the hearing sense, the feeling sense. There are some great games which you can play continuously with your children so that these senses keep developing. It's very important that all the three senses are equally developing and equally used for a child to succeed in academics. All right. However, what is that we can do now? Yeah, we're going to discuss about those tricks later. But right now, what you can do is first understand the learning mode of your child. Today, if I ask you that, how does your child study? Does he remember everything just by looking at it, or does he remember? Does he like studying only looking at videos? Because if your child likes looking at videos and studying, then your child is a child who likes to see a lot of visuals so that the child can understand and remember or retain the information. You would have seen that a lot of schools have adopted the method of making children just read and remember to video-based methods. Yeah, video-based methods today are, creating great results for not only children, even for adults. A lot of courses going on. So visual, which is video-based methods, can be one of the ways your child likes to learn. But there could be some parents or there could be some teachers who are emphasizing them to just take the book, sit and revise. Now, if your child is not the one who can understand things without watching a video or a visual, then your child will not be able to improve in their academics if you push them to just sit, read and learn, or just mug up things. So as a parent, you can do this quick exercise to identify what's the learning mode of your child. You have to ask your child 3 questions. Okay. Now, depending on the age of your child, you can do this. I've just taken this for an age group of say 8 to 10 to 13, where you ask them simple mathematic calculations. What is 10 plus 20? First question. What is 30 plus 10? Second question. What is 15 plus 10? Third question. Now, this mathematic number which I have put here, please don't stick to it. You can ask them anything. For smaller children, you can ask them something else. What's the color of an apple? What's the color of a mango? What's the color of a guava? Yeah. So for smaller children, you can ask them something which is related to color. So ask them these questions and observe where do they look. Now you must be wondering what are we looking at? But let me just explain this to you. Yeah. The eye movement of your child will tell you which mode your child is into. Ekta, I just want to ask you the right table. Is it clearly visible?
Yes.
Great. So the eye movement of your child will tell you which mode your child is, using to study today, or to react to things, or anything what your child, exhibits today. Basis your child's eye movement, you can detect it. So the first question when you ask your child, you need to look at your child's eye movement. If your child is looking at the ceiling and answering, the apple is red in color, then your child is a child who can read and learn and understand with lot of visual techniques. Yeah, lot of visual techniques. If your child looks left down, which means just left inside and looks down and answers, I think it is red. That means your child is a child who likes to hear things, to retain, to learn, to understand. If your child is looking at the right downward movement, and also touching their body in some way or the other, feeling their fingers, touching their face, pulling their hair, and looking right downwards and saying, I think it is red in color. This means that your child learns with a lot of feelings into it. This child will not be able to learn if you constantly keep showing them visuals and constantly keep asking them to listen and revise certain subjects. So as a parent, what you can do is you can ask them these 3 questions and make your observations. Where was the eye movement of your child, and see where are you getting the maximum ticks. So for example, in the first question, when I ask your child, what is the apple color, and the child looks towards the ceiling, which means my child is visual. In the second question also, if my child looks at the ceiling, then it's visual. If third time when I ask the child, if the child looks right down, then which means my child is kinesthetic, which is feeling. So my tick will be on feeling. But however, out of the 3, I have ticked twice on visual, which means my child is more of visual. My child's learning capacity, retaining capacity is more of a visual mode, and then it's a feeling mode or a kinesthetic mode. So as a parent, you need to involve both a visual and a kinesthetic or a feel-based technique to make your children learn and improve in their academics. This is slightly technical to understand, but this table I'm going to share, Ekta, with everyone so that when they are doing this exercise, they'll be able to simply tick, tick, tick and get a result in front of them. Now, what does it mean that your child is visual? So when your child is visual, you will also see that your child speaks faster. Your child does shallow breathing. Your child moves continuously their hands. Yeah. These are all scientific research-based information which I'm presenting. You will completely understand or relate to what I'm saying once you do this exercise with your child. So children who speak really fast, do shallow breathing, completely keep on moving their hands, they are children who learn through visual techniques. Children who do deep breathing, they keep repeating often, they take regular pauses while speaking. Acha, okay, yeah, I think the apple is red. While speaking, when they take regular pauses, that means your child is more of a child who likes to hear things and retain and learn. And lastly, if your child looks right down, which means your child is more of a child who, you know, reads, learns, and retains through feelings, then the child will have a low tone, the deep voice, breathing from stomach, and they will take long pauses. So if you have to ask me about my child falls into the kinesthetic category, because my daughter, when I ask her something, she will generally have a low tone voice. She will take deep breathing. She will take long pauses. And whenever I ask her some questions, she'll be constantly touching her face or something or the other and looking right down while talking to me, especially while studying. So you can definitely try this. It's a fun exercise. And you will, when you do this, you will realize what mode your child is of. Secondly, you can ask somebody else to do this for you as a parent. Now, why I'm asking you to do this is, the whole problem is that our children are of a certain mode and we are of a certain mode, and that's where the mismatch happens. What do I mean by this is, if as a parent I'm a visual parent, and if my child is a kinesthetic child, which is learns through feeling, then as a parent I will constantly use visual methods to teach my child, and my child will never ever understand what I'm trying to tell them. Even when it comes to behaviors, when I want to correct behaviors of my child, I may just use visual methods where I'll speak fast, I will scold them, my hands will be moving. Why did you do this? Why did you do this? And my child will be clueless because my child is a kinesthetic child. My child understands from low tone of voice, deep breathing, long pauses. So my communication to my child should be in their mode, not in my mode. So as a parent, please do this exercise for yourself as well. Ask somebody else to ask you the question and note down the observation, or you can do it yourself as well. Ask yourself a question and see where you're looking. If you're looking towards the ceiling, you are a visual person. If you're looking left down, you are a person who believes in hearing everything before you retain or learn or you react or you respond. And if you look right down, then you are a person who involves feeling into everything before you act, react, respond. So this is a method in which you can understand what your children's mode is. Change your mode to that. Parents, please, you have to change your mode to your children's mode to make sure that whatever you want to communicate to them or you want them to improve in their academics, you will have to change to their mode, which means what? So if your child is visual, your child speaks fast, you have to speak fast. If your child's volume is higher, then you have to keep your volume higher. If your child uses visual words like I see this, then you have to, when you're talking to your child, you also have to use those words like I see this happening, I see that's happened, oh, I see that this problem is not being able to be solved. So you have to use those kind of words, and you have to keep saying to them, look what I'm saying. Instead of saying listen to what I'm saying, you have to say look to what I'm saying, because they are visual people, they are visual children. They're going to listen to something which they can look up to, because for them visuals are important. So these are some keywords which you can use in your communication, which will help you as a parent to improve your communication with your child. Yeah. And here, remember, low tone, low volume will not be effective, low energy will not be effective. But of course, I don't mean that you should scream and shout. Yeah. So let's give a demo. So if I'm saying you have to speak fast, which means that, hey, listen, you were supposed to do your homework, you haven't done it. Let's find out what's happening. See, if you see my hands are moving. Yeah, let's find out what's happening. It's something which is something which the child looks up to as an action because it's visual. So, oh, I look what you've done here, but I think this is wrong, we need to correct this. So I'm involving visual, I'm involving my hand movements, I'm involving my tone, I'm speaking fast. But when it comes to somebody who is kinesthetic, my volume will be very low. Acha, what happened? Let me check. Oh, okay, this is what has gone wrong. All right, come here, let me hold your hand, let me write this together with you. So this is how a child who is kinesthetic, who does everything from feeling perspective, will have to be communicated with or will have to be taught with. Yeah. So this is one method which you can see, which you can use. It sounds a little complicated, but when you do it, when you start practicing it, it gets easier with that. Ekta, Ila, any questions?
I have a question. What if all three question gives you a different input?
Okay. It will not happen. Your child will be dominant in one aspect for sure. Yeah. And if it happens, then probably what you can do is you can give it a break and take a break of 2-3 days and then ask 3 different set of questions and see. But as per the research, you will find a dominant mode. Every child has a dominant mode and it will be inevitable. If you cannot find it in 3 questions, make it 10 questions. That's absolutely okay. Yeah. I've just given an example of 3 questions. You can ask 5 questions to find out which is the more dominant mode. But everyone, you, me, Ela, all of us who are listening to me right now, everybody present on this show will have a dominant mode. We all have a dominant mode.
Right. So we have Anita Mishra, who runs play schools. She's saying hats off to you in the way you have explained this, and Prachi, who's also a teacher and a mother of a 7-year-old. That it's a great input and would be very useful for teachers to identify the learners. And Anita is also saying that you have covered all the 9 intelligence, that one really needs to work upon to develop a child. Wonderful. I think this is a very interesting input that you have shared, and it's wonderful. I'm going to definitely try this for sure.
Definitely.
And I'm just trying to recollect what do I do? How do I answer a question? So I think I want the moment you get conscious about it, you are able to then kind of match up
yes.
to the mode of the child. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Absolutely. Great. So why I have put this up as one of the most important step is that this is a base to know and understand your child. If you know your child's mode, you will be able to communicate with them in their mode. And once you communicate with them in their mode, you will be able to make them listen to you. You'll be able to build rapport. You'll be able to make them better in their academics as well. And you will also see changing behaviors will get easier and faster. The biggest problem is why children don't listen to us is because there are 2 different modes battling against each other. So parents, it's so important that you have to match up with your child's mode and adopt this to see positive results coming in. This definitely works. You have to keep attending. You have to keep trying. If there's anybody who is needing any guidance on it, I'm always available for them. Great. So we move on to the next one. So I've given this small table, which we are going to share Ekta with everyone so that they can start putting their observations here and come up with a score. So it's going to be like a self guide for all parents, which we will put up later. So it becomes very easier for them. All right. So we spoke about forming positive states or keeping your children in positive states always. The last and the most important and the finale step is to constantly create powerful self-beliefs in your children. I'm sure we as parents, we cannot be always speaking positively to our children. Sometimes we just say negative things. It happens. Yeah. When we are either stressed or we have too much of work, there are a lot of reasons externally which can lead us to speak negative to our children. So as a parent, I think when you become conscious about this fact that you're not supposed to, feed negativity in your children, I think automatically you will start taking steps back before you start reacting and learn to respond. So how this can be done, creating powerful self-belief, is simply by avoiding negative usage of words. Yeah, it's easier said than done, but it is possible. It only happens with practice, 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 and you will reach a success point. So words like, you're so irresponsible, if you do not study, you're going to fail, don't eat junk food, you'll become fat, you can never be good at maths, do not run too fast, you will fall. I'm sure every parent would have used one of these words in their parenting life. Even I have used it multiple times, but only realize that it is just damaging them. Nothing is going to happen. When you say you are irresponsible, they're not going to become responsible. This doesn't work. If you tell them that if you don't study, you will fail, it doesn't work. If you're going to tell them that don't eat junk food, you're going to become fat, it doesn't work. The child may become very conscious, and that will be self-damaging to the child. That, oh no, I don't want to become fat, so I'm not going to eat this. And the child will start becoming averse towards a lot of foods, which is a little mental block for a child. So always think what you are saying to your children. Instead of saying negative words, feed them with positive beliefs. Now, how can you convert these irresponsible to positiveness? Is instead of calling them irresponsible, Tell them that I think you're much more responsible than what you are right now. I'm sure about it. Why don't you do this? I'm sure you can do this. So when you say this, your child firstly gets into a guilty state that, yeah, my mama and papa feel that I'm responsible, but I think I have let them down. So let me not let them down. Let me try to be responsible. Yeah. You you are so good at it. Give it an attempt. Study, put in little more efforts, and I'm sure you will clear with bright colors or bright marks. These are the words which you can use to motivate your children to get on the positive path. And you will see that their response towards you will also start changing, and their response towards you will become more positive, and they'll be more acceptable to what you're telling them. Yeah. Instead of saying that you're going to become fat, tell them that how important it is to be be eating good food till a certain age, because after a particular age there is no way you can do anything to your body. So tell them those scientific facts, show them powerful videos which talks about these things scientifically. Children love science. Anything you want to talk to them about, involve science in it, involve experiments in it, involve animals in it, and they learn like that. Try and see methods which you can use to tell them something or communicate to them something which probably you're struggling at today. You can never be good at maths. But mommy, papa, I am good at all other subjects. Why are you saying that I can never be good at maths? Yeah, your children can backfire this question at you. So instead of saying that, you're so amazingly creative, you're so good at language, I'm sure you can be equally good at maths. Let's make an effort. Let's try. Come on, let's give it a shot. Like the way you have done all subjects so well, even maths is nothing for you. You have to get this fear of maths out of your child. Don't scare them that maths is the only subject which you need to succeed at. Every subject is equally important, and so is maths. And maths is not a devil. It's not a devil which is going to eat you up. You have to eat it up. So the way you're eating up other subjects like a monster, come on, grab this subject also. Try and see if you can use these words which they relate to, and see how they can beautifully transform their negative beliefs to a positive, powerful beliefs. So, of course, I think this I can be anything, I want to be anything, I can do anything. These are some real great words which we should keep talking to our, feeding our children with on a daily basis. And there is this beautiful technique called affirmations, which I believe in. And I've been talking about it in every children's and parents section, where you should create a routine where you communicate some positive affirmations to your children and to yourself. Like, for example, I have created these positive affirmations for my child, and I have a similar one for myself, where we both every day recite these affirmations for each other. So I tell her to recite her affirmations, and I recite my affirmations. Now, what are affirmations? Affirmations are positive, belief filled statements. Yeah. So instead of saying that don't eat junk food and you're going to become fat, instead of that, every day tell them to say, I'm healthy and fit, I'm healthy and fit, I'm healthy and fit, I'm healthy and fit. This actually creates a lot of benefit in your child because it hits the neural pathways of children and even adults. If you do this practice of saying affirmations for 21 days, it is said that it becomes a habit in you. So these are some affirmations which I have put for parents and for children. I'm going to read a couple of them so that you understand what I'm trying to say. When should you do this? You can do this once you wake up in the morning or you before going to bed. There is no dosage for this. You can do this 10 times in a day. You can do this 2 times a day, but do this when the child is in a happy state. Never do this when the child is in a hurry, rushing somewhere, where the child doesn't have time. Otherwise, your child will do this just like a routine, or like just because my mama has asked me to do it, a tick mark. Find your child in a happy state and get them towards doing this, and let them say these affirmations to themselves. So, for example, I am self sufficient. When your child knows that your child is self sufficient, then your child will be, believing in themselves so much that they will be able to do anything which comes their way. So, I am self sufficient is a very, very powerful affirmation. I love my parents. When a child says this every day to themselves, Ekta, we were talking about self talk, right? So these are the positive self talks which you can make your child do. And you will see that slowly and steadily your negative self talk, which a child does to themselves, will start fading away. Yeah, I love my parents. I'm healthy and fit. My immune system is strong and healthy. I totally believe in this affirmation because a lot of children today are suffering because of weak immune system. And trust me, weak immune system develop due to emotional reasons. There's a lot of research and a lot of study available on people with weak immunities have been found to have weak emotional engagements in the past, because of which they have developed certain, immune diseases. So it's so important to make your child realize and understand that their immune system is strong. Their immune system keeps them going and it is strong and healthy. I eat healthy food. I'm confident and intelligent. My teachers appreciate me. My parents support me and love me. Now, these are some from my side. As a parent, please create your own affirmation and see what you want to add, delete. What you can do is you can, paste this on lovely cards. Like I have a lot of Ekta's cards, which I had, got from her, and I'm using those cards, to write letters to my daughter and also write affirmations for my daughter. So you can use all, creative ways you want. You can, the way I have just written this on a chart paper and just put it on her desk so that she can see it on a daily basis. It also can be a good way to, keep it in front of them so that they can see it on a daily basis. And similarly for you, create one for yourself. Remember, we said you need to model behaviors. So if your child is not agreeing to doing this, it's okay. You do it in front of your child. Do it for 5 days, do it for 6 days, do it for 7 days, and eighth day, ninth day, you will see your child running to you and saying, even Mama, I want to do it. Yeah, model the behaviors. Before expecting from your child, you try and exhibit that behavior and you will see that your child will follow it. So certain affirmations, positive affirmations can be, I'm a good parent, I'm happy and cheerful, me and my child are always happy together, I eat healthy food and stay fit. It's so very important. I spend quality time with my child. I do best for my children. I am always loving and kind. I am patient, mindful. See, these are all traits which we need as parents. And in this affirmation, I have put those traits which you need on a daily basis to parent your child. There are some more which can be added from your end. Feel free. This is just a list which I have created. You can create your own list as well. So affirmations is the final step, which is going to make sure that your journey continues to be a great journey as you restart your parenting. This is going to building a lot of positivity in your child as well as you as a parent. And you will see when you do this on a daily basis, you will progress one day by day, one thing at a time on issues and behaviors which you want to tackle with. It's not going to be an easy journey. I'm repeating again, it's not going to be an easy journey. It's going to be a tough journey because restarting is not easy. Changing is not easy for us, also, even for our children. So let's accept that, embrace it, but let's walk on that path so that we don't regret when they grow older that wish I could have done these things to bring up my child or contribute in my child's life. So a quick recap for everyone here. 7 steps. First step, love yourself. Second step, know what your child feels about you through the love letter activity, which we spoke about. Be a genuine parent, a real parent. Keep your child in a positive state. Build rapport with your child. Understand your child's learning mode and create powerful self beliefs. So these are 7 steps, practical, logical, implementable steps which you can start. There are lots of other things which we can do as parents, but this is the foundation. I would urge everyone to start practicing this one by one and see how you progress in your restarting as a parent journey. And Ekta, that's it from my side. I'm open for questions if any.
No, I think, I mean, the session was really amazing, Resina. Very, very practical inputs you have shared. And, I love that point number 6 about the mode mapping of the child and the parent. I think that is where most of the time, as parents, one goes wrong because you don't know. And, this input uh, definitely is going to help, how do you really deal with the child? Because it's like saying, we keep the example that you use, that if a child is not good in studies, might be good in sports or dramatics or something else, which means that the child may have a more creative bent of mind, and most often than not we get so bogged down with the pressure of the academics that we tend to ignore all these add-on things that a child has. And as when you mentioned that our children become our teacher, since I host mothers on a platform, not one but many have come and acknowledged this, that so many times we have learned from our children.
Mhm.
So I think the session was very, very good. How we can really work on restarting our parenting. Of course, for the ones who have grown up children, I'm sure there would be some takeaways from here also. You never know, because sometimes the parent and the child have a very strained relationship, and
Yes.
obviously it's built up over the years that it is there, and children stop communicating. So maybe if you could just kind of use something over here in terms of understanding their mood even as adult, because as Regina said that not only do we need to check our child's mood, but we also need to check what our mood is, right? And I'm constantly thinking, since the time you said this is what is my mode, what do I do? How do I answer a question when somebody questions me? Do I look up? Do I look here? Do I look there? I'm not able to fathom, because you don't give any conscious thinking towards these things.
Right.
So I think it's wonderful, and being validated by a teacher, by a person who runs play schools, and as a parent, I think, I'm sure whoever has done research on this, and there is a science to it. And you're quite right. If you see with your own children also, when you teach them something in a certain manner, it doesn't work, and that's when the teacher or you as a parent also change your methodology.
True.
So I guess you have put a thought process to it, that why do we need to change our approach? As of now we were doing it because we felt कि अच्छा ये ऐसे नहीं सीख रहे, चलो ऐसे सिखा देते हैं. But now we know that there is a science to it, and we can work on this. And the rapport building also, I think, is a very important aspect of which will open the mindset of a parent, that it is not always about what the child is doing. It is also about how you are behaving,
True.
right? Because a rapport has to be built two ways,
Correct.
right? And children, like I said, that till they are 5 6 years, they are so much in awe of their parents, the mother or the father, that whatever they say is right. But now, from there onwards, when they start thinking, they go to the school, they get more exposed to the environment, that's when the questioning starts to come in. And if as parents we don't fall in the line where we expect them to be, then the disconnect automatically happens. So that also is wonderful, that don't be the parent that you wish to be, but be the parent that they want you to be. So I think there's a lot of food for thought that you leave us with today, and definitely a lot to ponder over and think. So I think the session was wonderful. As of now, I don't have any questions really to ask you, because what you have shared, I think it needs to be really internalized. One needs to understand, and then perhaps I will have a week to really think through this, and then come back. See, because I also feel there are certain challenges that every parent goes through, and I'm sure you also as a parent would have been through, and that those expectations that we set for our children, that's where that whole thing, that oh, I haven't been a good parent, or I didn't do it right, or I failed. I don't think that there would be any parent of any age group who wouldn't have said this, that I failed as a parent. The child will never come and say to you that you failed as a parent or I failed as a child, but it is the parent's conscious
Yes.
which will say that you failed. So I think those barometers also that we set for ourselves as parents also needs to be re-looked on.
Correct.
Who is determining your success or failure, right?
True.
And if you failed, then I think my favorite, forward action, inward learning, that if you are failing, then there is something that needs to be checked. There is some learning that needs to be done. And I'm sure
Correct.
that, so failing is actually work in progress. So let's not think there, and definitely ponder over these 7 steps to restart parenting. And well, parents, don't feel that it's only about you. It is also about the child here. So, in the next session, Resina is going to be talking about 5 steps to a happy child, which obviously means that parenting is a two-way process where both the child and the parent are involved. And it's not just about fixing yourself. It is also about working on building that happy environment with the child. I don't know what the content of that is. I'm just saying, what I understand of it, that eventually we all want happy children, because once we have happy children, we parents are happy. So wonderful session, Resina. I mean, really a lot of food for thought today.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy that it's adding a lot of value. I think my last thoughts would be that Ekta already said it. Just want to say again that parents, we are all work in progress. Okay, there is no perfect parent. We can always keep getting better and better. We can improve or ease our journey with these 7 steps which we spoke about. Please, I urge everyone, try it once. There's no harm in trying. You may fail, but try. It's going to be worth it. If not all 7 going to be successful, even if 3 steps are successful for you, you will see a lot of change in your parenting style, as well as one or the other behavior corrections you can bring in your child. I think that's what I would urge everyone. And yes, the next session is going to be how to raise happy kids. Of course, in this, parental involvement is definitely required, because without parents, our children cannot be anything. We are their foundation. I think everything, lies on us, the responsibility, the ownership, everything. So we are going to discuss that, or we're going to learn a lot of aspects there. You're going to have some great inputs in that session as well. And just keep practicing. Please, I would urge everyone, write that letter, get that letter from your child. That's your first step, and progress further from there.
Yes. And to put a positive closure to this session today, we have Anita Mishra saying that grow up with your kid and you will enjoy the life, which means that you are always work in progress. And Prachi Gulati Mago is saying an awesome session, learned a lot. So many self doubts are cleared today. So indeed, it is impacting all the parents who are watching, who will eventually watch. And I'm sure it's going to make a difference. So thank you so much, Resina. And we're looking forward to our fourth and concluding session to the parenting series. We will be with you again on next Saturday at 4 p.m. So do block your calendar. And if you have any questions to ask Regina over any of the series, you are free to have those questions ready with you. Speak to her on next Saturday and be there. And later on, also, if you wish to ask something, I'm sure Regina is available to interact. If you have a specific challenge that you're dealing with and you need any kind of guidance, you can always reach out to Resina, and I'm sure you will find an impactful and a practical solution. I did, so I'm sure many would. I have a first-hand experience in figuring out a solution for a challenge that I was facing with my 4 year. So wonderful, Resina, and looking forward for the next session on Saturday. And I'm sure I'm going to watch through the session again, think through the questions, and come back and ask them to you.
Surely, most I will look forward to it. Definitely.
Wonderful. So thank you so much, and have a great evening.
Thank you. Bye bye, everyone. Namaskar.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye bye.